Welcome to Sober and Lit.
The podcast for women who want to get sober, stay sober, and live a life that's way more lit than it ever was with wine.
We're your hosts, Ruby and Susan, two alcohol freedom coaches keeping it real with stories, tools, and zero judgment.
Whether you're sober curious or all in, you're in the right place.
Let's feel lit, alcohol free. Welcome back to the Sober and Lit podcast. So excited you joined us. And today we have a really special guest, Ann Dowsett Johnston. So excited. Yay. She is a best-selling author of Drink, the intimate relationship between women and alcohol, which broke the story on the pinking of the alcohol market and the closing the gender gap on risky drinking. She's an award-winning journalist, and she spent 30 years at Maclean's magazine and moving on to her role as vice principal of McGill University. In her 60s, Ann enrolled at Smith College and became a psychotherapist. As well, she teaches her popular online memoir course called Writing Your Recovery. And she's a prominent advocate for mental health and addiction services. And she has won many awards, including an honorary doctorate of laws from Queen's University. So welcome, Ann.
Thank you, Ruby. Thank you, Susan.
I love that you went back to school in your 60s. I just turned 60 in July. And
congratulations.
Thank you. So reinventing yourself and continuing education. So awesome.
I love that too.
Thank you.
We can always start a new career. We can always reinvent ourselves. Yeah. So I thought what we could get started was, your book, Drink, which was one of the first books I read in, my Quit Lit books. And it was just such a groundbreaking blend of like memoir and journalism. And so, let's start there. And will you take us back to your story on alcohol and what did your relationship on drinking look like? And what led you to say enough? Yeah.
Yes. I was in my late 40s, and I had always been a bit of a workaholic. I had a very successful career in journalism, and then I was vice principal of McGill University, which is Canada's probably most prominent university, and found myself working around the clock and hitting menopause. And I co-parented, but I was essentially a single parent. And my only son went off to university, and I was lonely. And I medicated many things. I medicated depression. I medicated exhaustion from work. I medicated loneliness. Even though I was in a relationship, I really missed my son. And it caught up with me. I think like many women of a certain age, we are raising children, we race home from work, we're at the chopping board cutting vegetables, and it's easier to pour a glass of wine than it is to do a yoga class. I slipped into it. Burnout, I would say, and menopause, perimenopause were big issues for me, and loneliness, and I slipped into it because we live in an alcoholic culture and it is so-called glamorous, and it caught up with me. It caught up with me badly. I had a severely alcoholic mother. My father died of the disease, and I should have known that my genes were stacked in a terrible way. I went to rehab in the United States in 2008. And I'm almost 17 years sober. And that's my story. It was painful and difficult. And then I turned a corner.
Yeah. Well, in your book, and I love this metaphor so much, is that loan shark. I love that it's such a great visual, he's like lurking and he comes back and you kick him out and and it's like, it's that short temporary relief, right? Loan shark, you borrow the money, but then you have to pay back twofold, right? And it's that whole, when you're feeling depressed or emptiness, sadness, loneliness, burnout. So then it's that, I'll take a quick loan shark, loan now, but then it impacts everything in your life. And you call it a velvet hammer in your book, which I also love that phrase or that visual as well. So how did you you just said then I got free.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it was ugly. It was ugly. The turning point for me was my cousin Doug was killed by a drunk driver with the youngest, of his 4 children in the front seat. So he died instantly, and she was brain injured. And I woke up hearing that news on Father's Day, 2007, and thought, I'm losing myself. I lost my childhood, and now I've lost Doug to alcohol. What else do I need to lose? And I took a big piece of paper and wrote the wall of why, as in why should I live? And why should I get sober? And what had happened in my life is that my then fiance, my beautiful son, were all saying, we're not going to stay with you if you continue to drink. I was getting to be a blackout drinker. And then the worst thing was there was a wake for Doug, and I got blackout drunk at that wake. So I knew I was going to lose everything. My son confronted me, my best friend confronted me together, and I decided to go to rehab. And that is after many, many, many painful chapters of, not being myself and losing myself. And at the end, I was blackout drinking, very lost, very, very lost.
I can really relate to slipping into this. I was in my late 40s as well when my drinking ramped up due to burnout as well with my job. I worked for 20 years at Yale University, and then we also owned a music studio. So I was leaving my day job and then going to this night job. And like you said, it catches up to you. And in the end, I had a couple of times when I was blackout drinking too. And that's where it gets really scary. You can kind of justify it here and there and go, oh, well. And like you said, we live in an alcoholic society. And so it is the thing, right? It's the normal thing to do. Oh, stressful day, come home and have a glass of wine. Coffee in the morning, wine at night, you bookend your day, and it's completely normal. But what I love is that your book and this movement now is really helping people not have to hit that rock bottom, not have to have those super painful chapters. Like, hopefully there's more information out there now seeing that, that alcohol is dangerous and it's a slippery slope. And can we help people, not slip so far down before they make a change, right?
Right.
And you were so brave, because back in 2008, now there's many, many, many books, but you were one of the first book. You were so vulnerable. This wasn't a topic. Yeah. It's definitely the movements out there, and more people are writing books and being vulnerable and talking about this. But you really were a pioneer, and just so thankful that you got, alcohol free. And then you had this ability as a journalist and an excellent writer to write your truth. And I love that so much. And now you're helping other people write their recovery in your course, which is amazing, because I reached out to you because I actually attended your course, and I just loved your expertise. You're helping people be vulnerable and creative. I think vulnerable, though, is the word, because it's just so difficult to share some of these deep, dark secrets. Tell me a little bit more about what the catalyst was for you to start your writing your recovery course.
Thank you, Ruby. I spent 30 years almost at Maclean's Magazine, which is Canada's version of Time or Newsweek. So I edited some of the greats and was mostly an editor. So that is, my heart and soul work, working with words. And even though I'm a psychotherapist now, I missed that contact with words. Writing Your Recovery, I created 5 years ago because, and my notion is recover from everything. It's for women only. And the notion is we are all recovering from something, whether it's substance use or it's grief or it's an eating disorder, whatever it is. It's broadly described, and I take up to 14 women per class, and we're launching again in September, both a daytime and an evening class, and it's been very vibrant, and some wonderful women have been through the course, and I love giving it. And what I think distinguishes it is that it's not canned. In other words, I'm live on every class, and if you wanted to write a book, everything is included in this course, including meeting usually either Holly Whitaker or Laura McCowan and talking to them about their experience, and meeting a literary agent to talk about the publishing world. So I designed it as a course that I would have loved when I started writing Drink, when I wanted to learn everything about the publishing industry and how to get published. So it's a real joy. It's a joy and it launches September 10th, soon.
Yeah.
Soon. So we're not full, and it would be great to get some new, excited women to be involved in it.
Yeah. And it just really helped me to get like outside of my comfort zone. I didn't actually write a book yet, but I was able to write one chapter in a book that's like, it's called Epic Women. And it's like each woman, there's maybe 20 women and you each write a chapter. But it felt like now I'm a writer, or now I'm, published, and it's my first baby
Great.
step. So, but it helped, to do that, your course. So I highly recommend, your course.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I met you at the Sober in the City Tampa weekend conference, and I attended your workshop, and you use this method called a quilt method for writing, which I really loved. And I didn't think of myself as being a writer, although I remember now that I used to write all the time as a child, or even in high school. Writing and English was really what I loved. And it's so interesting how in sobriety, how we return to some of those roots. But I think also we don't have to write just to publish. How do you feel like writing your sobriety journey is necessary or beneficial in our recovery process?
Well, I'm a big fan of journaling, and I'm a big fan of, I think there's a lot of shame and guilt when we have been over drinking. And I think to find your way, almost like Hansel and Gretel through the forest, to navigate the new self that emerges, reclaiming parts of ourself that we may have lost, or even exploring new parts of ourselves that we have never known. I have a corny line, which is, when we put down the glass, the universe has a bigger imagination than we do. And my experience is that it's true. I was an editor for many years, but I hadn't written a book, and I dreamt of writing a book. And there I was, not even 5 years sober, and I had a big international book deal, and to write Drink. And that was a dream come true. And that wouldn't have happened, clearly, if I hadn't been sober and brave. And I think that we get to tell ourselves new stories about ourselves, that it's a great adventure being sober. It's a great adventure to basically experience rebirth. I think it is a rebirth of sorts. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do too. And I see that in clients, and myself as well. It's just like you said, it just opens up this whole nother world. I love that rebirth. That feels so good. We were talking before, that I just turned 60 and I was dreading my birthday so much. But now that it's passed, I'm just like, no, this is like opening a door to a whole new chapter. I'm like, I have 30 years here. What am I going to do with those? So yeah, what's next?
Yeah.
I think by writing, what you're saying is like women, we're recovering from anything, or we all have something we're recovering from, and we can come up with maybe aha moments, or a way to organize, a way to maybe get honest, maybe figure out what that next journey is, that next adventure is in our life by writing about it. So I'm also a huge fan of journaling, and And I think it's just getting the word out too. If we have more people writing and more people willing to open up and be vulnerable and write about this, then less women are feeling so alone. And
yes,
it's just this movement is really underway. And I really go back to, I think your book was one of the first real catalysts for this. Yeah. Sober movement.
Well, thank you. I really called out the alcohol industry on pinking the alcohol market because they really did take aim at women, and very purposely. I'm giving the course, I should say, in South Africa this coming November, late November, if anyone wants to travel to South Africa. I'm also, I don't think this is announced yet, going to be at the next Sober in the City event in Colorado Springs, looking at journaling and doing a workshop in their next event. So I just love walking, and I'm so glad you were at Tampa, Susan. It was a really special, if a little intense, workshop. And I just, looked up in my 60s and watched my son cross the stage at Smith College as a psychotherapist and realized I could do this. And I really believe, as I was saying, if you get sober, anything is possible, including being published.
That's amazing.
It's so amazing. Well, I was going to say that I really relate to this. Like, I worked in the wine industry. I don't know if you knew that, Ann, but it was a part of my job. And yeah, we in the industry, I actually worked in sales and marketing. We were definitely targeting women, women, be like a man and be professional, and it's sophisticated and it's fun. And it was all targeted to women, especially in the wine industry. So I really related to, like in your book, when you share about, professional women that kind of need to drink or feel like they need to drink to keep up with, the men's world, so to speak. Yeah. But I also learned so much from your book about how women, they metabolize wine and alcohol differently. Mm-hmm. Can you share a little bit more about like that kind of journalism aspect too?
Yes. So telescoping is real, which means that we do indeed become addicted faster than men. And we don't metabolize alcohol in the same way. And therefore, both men and women will suffer strokes from alcohol consumption, but we will suffer them 4 times, at numbers 4 times greater than men, that kind of thing. The numbers in my book are around health. They're really scary. And of course, 15% of breast cancer cases are attributable to alcohol consumption. And we haven't been, the media has not been really as dug in as deeply in historically as they should have. We really bought hook, line, and sinker the notion that a glass of red wine was good for your health and maybe 3 was better.
I did too, for sure.
Yeah. And I'm on a advisory committee at Yale University, and the new data on women and drinking is just tragic. We are outpacing, for the first time ever, men in certain age groups and in terms of consumption, and it's so dangerous for us. This is alarming in terms of showing up in hospitals and emergency rooms, young women, numbers far greater than young men. And so very scary. Liver transplants in your 20s, very, very alarming. And then, of course, we go through the age groups and women in their 60s suffering loneliness, 70s, 80s, so the numbers aren't good. Yeah. The numbers aren't good. And that's the bad news. The good news is that we have a new recovery movement, right? A modern recovery movement, right? So we're talking about Sober in the City, but there's the Luckiest Club where I'm a host of the women's Sunday morning women's meeting, and we have 55 meetings a week. And when I got sober almost 17 years ago, the only real alternative was to go to 12-step. And nothing wrong with 12-step, but it's lovely that there's all these options, as well as huge options in the alcohol-free beverage situation.
Yeah, yeah. And that's one of the funnest things about the Sober in the City is having that big dinner with all these amazing women. We all dress up and we have our alcohol-free cocktails, and serve this lovely dinner with the wines, the alcohol-free wines. It's so fun. I'm going to be in the Colorado one too.
Oh, good.
I actually did a workshop at the Tampa one on vacationing alcohol-free. And I did
yes.
Yeah, yeah. And I did a workshop at the latest one that was in Scottsdale. I love Peggy. I met Peggy in 2019. She is the best.
I love her.
She's the best.
She comes from the same area in Northern California where my mom grew up. And so she almost feels like, I was like, you could be my aunt or something, or my, you could be in my family, I said. And yeah, no, she and Susie and the movement with Sober in the City is so great. And there's so many there's alcohol-free retreats and vacations and so much more now for women.
Yes.
Yeah, the gatherings, if you, listener, have not been, if you're alcohol-free or on a sober journey, you haven't been to an alcohol-free event, I just encourage you to go to one, because when you get together, it's electrifying.
It is
when
so
you get
fun.
together with all of these sober women, and the word, I think, is wholehearted. We've been through sort of a foxhole together in the similar experience, and we just love each other instantly, right? And have this connection. And yeah, sober people are the best, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, well, that's a great question. If any woman is listening to this and they feel trapped or in that love-hate cycle with alcohol or wine, Ann, what do you think you would want her to know, or what would you like to tell her?
Yes, I coach a lot of women, and my advice is to keep for 1 week a sober diary. And by that, I mean you get up in the morning and you anticipate, knowing your day, knowing your evening, what you're going to have to drink. So, for instance, maybe you're staying home and you'll say, I'm going to have 1, or I'm going to have 2, or I'm going to have 0, and see if you can keep your promises to yourself. If you have an alcohol issue, you likely can't or won't. So that's the first thing I suggest. The other thing is journal about what you're medicating, if you're medicating everything. So I was my mother was cross-addicted to, she's part of the big Betty Ford generation of cross-addicted to benzos and alcohol. And so I wouldn't take an antidepressant. So I was dealing with depression, and I was definitely medicating depression, burnout, as I said, and other things. So what are you medicating? Are you tired? What could you be doing to address whatever it is that ails you in a different way than having a drink? Pretty shortly, a week, 10 days, 2 weeks maximum, you'll know if you have an alcohol problem. So people come to me and say, I don't know if I do. And usually if they ask the question, they do. But I think the journal, the diary, the daily diary of anticipating, that's what I did. I anticipated. But fascinating fact that came from Carolyn Knapp's beautiful book, Drinking a Love Story.
I love her book.
And when I was getting sober, that was the only book available, really. And she says near the end of the book that most women have a 12-year dialogue with themselves from, I think I have a problem, to doing something about it. And it was classic. I had 12 years of, do I have a problem? Problem ramped up during that time. And that's classic for women. Wow. To really scratch their head, wonder, not wanting to give it up, thinking, what will I do? The classic, I can't have champagne at my wedding. And you'll say, are you getting married? And they'll say no. So that's...
Yeah, I've heard the
You've
number
heard that?
7 years is, I think maybe it's 12 years, because longer I was thinking of my journey, but like 7 years of where I was really trying, like rules and like for about 7 years. But probably it was another, many years where I knew I had a problem, but was probably in denial or fooling myself or thinking, wait a minute, other people drink more. Or, we just did an episode around, when waiting for rock bottom recently. And a lot of people, that was like, well, I'm working. I haven't gotten a DUI, or I haven't gone to jail, or I haven't lost a job, or, the waiting for that rock bottom to fall, but I don't do that anymore. Right.
No, I used to have a little yellow sticky on my fridge that just said yet, meaning I haven't had a DUI yet. I will if I keep going. So I kept yet when I got sober on my fridge, and it was a good reminder.
Yeah. Well, you wrote your book early on, like I read Carolyn Knapp's book also. And so it was a little risky for you in your profession to write that book.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
I mean, we applaud you for your bravery, because, now a lot of people write their sobriety story and books about it, and it's kind of a thing because there's so much quit lit, but you wrote your book early on, and
I did.
Thank you. And so how did you navigate that in your career?
That was tough. When the book was finished, I applied for a job that I probably should have, in another world, secured easily, and didn't even get a call in for an interview. I think when you write a book called Drink and you tell your story, you're not, you're self-selecting out of things. I did get a job. It was a very good job, but I then moved on, and it was a very vulnerable thing to do. Somebody said to me, "Are you independently wealthy?" And I said, "No." And they said, "You'll never get a job again." And, back then it was a big issue. That was 2013 when it came out. Mm-hmm. And there just wasn't the kind of dialogue. It's a very different world now, as you say.
Yes. Thank God. Thank goodness.
Yes.
Amazing stories. Yeah. The quit lit and we can tie that back if you're interested in writing your own story. This course is amazing. Well, this is a time in our episodes where we ask our guests, and I really am so curious, what do you do, Ann, to feel lit in your life, your personal life?
There's no doubt that I write, and I write for pleasure. But the biggest change in my life in the past 3 years has been the birth of, corny as it is, the birth of my beautiful granddaughter, Frances, who's 3.5 and lives in Los Angeles. And I spend time with her, and she really has reinvigorated my sense of, I was invited to go and live with them for 4 months last year, and my second granddaughter, Pearl, was born, and reinvigorated a sense of love and wonder at the world that I couldn't have expected. And everybody says this, so it sounds corny and, common. But I have found that exploring the world through Frances's eyes has been a rebirth for me of a different kind. And she just spent 11 days with me, and I wouldn't be with her if I was still drinking. I mean, that's just flat out the truth. So it's a miracle. It's a miracle. I know that my son and his wife would not be inviting me into their lives the way they are and have. So, as I didn't invite my mother in. So these are really big perks that you get when you are in long-term recovery and able to be present. And I share that with Peggy Cooney. We converse every day, and that is just a beautiful reality of life.
Yeah.
A different kind of love.
So many people, and it was my big why. I did not want to be a drunk grandma. I did not want to be a grandma that just doesn't play with their grandkids or lays on the couch, or I wanted to be this vibrant grandma. I'm not a grandma yet, but and I put it, and I hear it. I hear it from my clients, and it's a big reason. We want to age well and with vibrancy, and I, with my drinking story, I only saw, early death, to be honest with you, or some sort of, disease or something. So there's so much possibility. I love that you shared that.
Yes.
I love it so much. I don't have any grandchildren of my own. I have step grandchildren, but my children are right there. My daughter's best friend just had a baby, and it's just like, I'm so excited for that baby because she was like the daughter, a friend that was at our house all the time. And so it's just like right there. I'm so excited for that next chapter. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a delight.
It is. Well, it's been a delight having you. And
thank you.
I'm really emotional. I mean, we're grateful. We call you the pioneer, in the sobriety world, and love having you now, even, coming to doing these workshops and teaching what you teach. I remember getting very emotional at your workshop in Tampa, just writing what does Brene Brown say? Once you own your story, you get to write a new ending, but you got to own your story. And I think we are able to do that through writing. So,
and when I was in your course, the women get so close, and we really are truly vulnerable. We're sharing so much, and I loved getting to know the other women. And it wasn't all just alcohol stories, like you said. There were women that had to recover from many different things, and we shared our writing, and you offered suggestions, and we listened and got creative. And I love your course. So will you share, how can people connect with you or find you, and maybe take your writing, your recovery course?
It would be great. Yes, it's very easy. It's my name, Ann Dowsett, Ann Dowsett, Dowsett, Johnston.com. Big long name. And under my website, there's workshops. So you just go to the workshops and enroll. And that would be lovely to have some fresh faces. That would be wonderful.
We'll put all the links in the show notes so people can just go to the show notes and find a link. And I think it's a great place to be, even in early recovery. I think it will really supercharge your sobriety journey.
Yeah. And as Ruby said, the women get tight.
Yes. Yeah. Well, thank you so very much for all you do in this sobriety world and for your course. And I'm really so glad you're here and doing this work. Thank you, Ann.
Yes. Thank you, both of you, so much.
I'll see you in next May in Colorado.
All right. Okay. Wonderful.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for listening to the Sober and Lit podcast.
If you enjoyed this episode, we would love it if you would subscribe, rate, and review. It really helps get the word out.
And remember, do something today to help you feel lit.
See you next week.